to Building with BuildHer today. We have a really juicy conversation. It's one that I really like. It's one that we talk to our master builders about a lot. So it's, or our developers, basically people who are looking to develop for profit. And often they have that complementary skill set or something that ties in with what they're doing on their day jobs that allows them to be really good at developing, and then they can use the developing to showcase their day job skills, and everything then is
meshes into each other.
It meshes into itself in a really beautiful way.
Well, it kind of creates like a really nice synergy. And what we find is that the need that is there for that is it's for cash flow, but also when you do projects, there's a lot of financial outlay before the reward at the very end of the project. So it's how do you actually keep on top of your household bills, and how do you keep running your life day to day, so bringing in that money that you still need to live, whilst being able to, I suppose, get the nest egg at the end and then plan that how you're going to spend that nest egg.
Yeah, so you're basically using your day job or that skill set. So it might be an interior designer or a stylist or a builder or any number of things, really. Mm-hmm. What else have we got? We've got
well, there's quite a few. Maybe we go through some of them.
If you're doing that for your day job and then you work that into the developing and you kind of use that to showcase your skills, and then at the end of a project you've got that lump of money, because we've done our sums right, and we're going to get a lump of money at the end, and we're going to get that nest egg. So we're kind of going to like bulk or chunk build capital as we go, and then we're going to have that cash flow to pay our day-to-day, so we're not eating into that kind of wider profit.
Yeah. So in our Developers Inner Circle content for this next session, Rebecca is actually interviewing Alison, who is an interior designer, and she's talking through our developers about how she actually does that process. What are the nitty-gritties and how does it all happen? But we thought it might be really interesting to share with you and give you some guidance along the many different jobs that complement construction and building, and how do they complement in terms of creating a business around it. So maybe to kick off, why don't we talk about interior design, because that's probably one of the biggest ones.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest ones, and it's one of the ones where there's a lot of interior designers, there's a lot of stylists in the market. It can be a hard industry to make a really good wage for, and to kind of get ahead and plan. Like, it's fine to pay your bills, but then to kind of really get ahead. And like most industries, there are some people playing at that top level, and the rest of the people are kind of around here, and it's kind of, it's a job, it's making ends meet, but it's not kind of growing your future and kind of growing that nest egg for retirement. So that's, complementary wise, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's the styling, it's the finishes, it's the ability to put your own spin on things and do work the way you specifically want to do it.
Now, if that's you might be looking at developments to maybe showcase your design work, because obviously when you're working for clients, you are working to a brief. And the things that you might like to charge out for might be like a design consult or a site visit, or putting together a finishes board, or helping someone plan a project to finishes to a certain budget. And then you might be setting up a little business around that and billing out for those services.
You could also be doing full scope interior design, where you're doing packages where you're drawing up the concepts. You can do furnishings, you could be doing colour consults, you could be doing kind of that coaching or guidance type. And then you could be working for brands, so that might be on a showroom floor, it could be holding workshops, you could be doing shop fittings, you could be doing in-house design consults. So there's a whole heap of interior design kind of day jobs that you can do, but I guess how do they complement the developing? It's really to be able to launch your interior design. It's like the two work really well together, because you get to showcase what you can do, and you've got a budget to work with, and you've got a brief, but it's actually your limitation. So you don't have a client that's then going to implement or change what you've designed because they found something that's different or more cost effective, or was there.
And one of the other complementary things would be content. So there's lots of scope to create content around what you are doing in that other day-to-day job, which feeds back into what you might do for your developments, which kind of feeds back into who you are as a person. And the nice thing is that you don't have to be only developments or only interiors.
Yeah.
You kind of get to straddle across lots of different ones. And you mentioned an interesting one before about whether you're an artist. So one of our developers is an artist. She paints on the side. I don't want to say on the side, but she paints in her other spare time. And she uses her platform to try and sell her artwork as well. But she can showcase that artwork in the developments that she's doing.
So then it all ties in. We've got people who are builders. Builders is a really easy one, obviously, because you're able to save money on the build, but you're able, because you're doing the build, so there's no builder's margin, but you're also able to kind of build what you want to build and kind of set up that build. So when we develop, we're the one who's in charge of organising all the architects and the interior designers and how everything looks. So you can build what you want to build. The more you build what you want to build, the more people will come to you for that type of building. So again, that starts to leverage that platform. And again, the content, some people get really, the build is their private space. They don't want it shot at the end. They don't want people in there and they might have spent all their money and they're saving up to get the perfect finishes. So sometimes you can go a really long time without getting a project that's actually photographed. So the beauty of developing for profit is that at the end of the project, you style it, you finish it, you sell it. So you need those images, and you're, I guess, able to curate and create more content by doing it that way.
Well, that leads us into another one, which is photography.
Yes.
We do have some amazing photographers in our network, and there's lots of ways that you might build photography into developing for yourself. So you might like to, or have an interest in shooting construction sites.
Yeah.
You might actually build out a portfolio of images which you might on-sell or lease out off your finished development, or you might do shoots for other people in our network.
Yeah, and the thing about photographers is that if they understand the end image, they often make really good developers, because they can see the end result really clearly, and they understand proportions and scale and scope and space,
and colour.
Light and colour. Yeah. So these things are really good skills to have, and so there's lots of different skills. Like even people who are teachers, for example, it's a really complementary skill to being a developer, because really, as a developer, your biggest asset is, I guess, moving a whole heap of people in one direction, getting them behind your vision and aligning them. I mean, I could not get a classroom of 3-year-olds to do what I wanted them to do. Not a chance in hell. So if you've got that skill, maybe this is actually another way that you could use it.
Or if you're a farmer. Actually, that's a great one. What about any financial services? So anyone who's into finance, into funding, into building up spreadsheets, has a financial background or even a mathematical background, they also lean in really well to developments. And that's because there's a fair amount of bookkeeping and accounting that has to happen. There's also a nice feeling when you balance the books, and there's a lot of balancing in materials and selections and building decisions. A lot of that comes to financial balancing.
And it's also, their ability to control the end result. So if you can see that future and you've got that technical mindset to be able to control it, then the building doesn't feel as scary for you, because you've done the work to understand the finances and the costing and how everything kind of joins together as a puzzle. Copywriting is another one.
I spoke to one of our developers yesterday, and she's a copywriter who works in real estate and has a passion for building and developing. So she wants to develop for herself and she wants to build for herself. She has a knack for copywriting, and she's thinking about how can she actually create a complementary business that writes copy, because that's her niche, in this market.
Yeah. Buyer's advocates. I mean, that's really easy. But the art of buying and selling, and we were talking to Amy Lenardi about this one, but she might buy 70 projects or sell 70 projects in a year, right? Or a real estate agent might sell 70 houses in a year. She might buy 70 houses in a year for different clients. Like, you get the art of negotiation and seeing something and being able to look at value and look at suburbs and look at trends and what the interest is at the forefront. And so I guess that's a really complementary skill, very much inside the industry, real estate agents and buyers advocates. But
if you think about it, if you are in that need, if you are in real estate or in that marketplace, you're kind of seeing the products before they're even available. So if you do want to take that to the next level, that's a nice transition.
Yeah, obviously you can't buy it from your own clients, which is a little bit more tricky, but just understanding the process and the way these things coming about and having the contacts is a really big skill. Any trades obviously is transferable. Anyone whose partner is a trade is a really transferable skill. I guess what we see is that it's more the passion for wanting to do it that is the key, because you can just see, you might love real estate, you might be spending your weekends at open homes, you might be just passionate about it, and it's the passion that makes you good at being able to do it, because you're looking at it, you're seeing it, you're active all the time. It's the people that kind of go into it and they go, I'm doing this because I want to make money, and then it doesn't really work for them, or maybe they make the wrong decision, or someone tells them that these are the suburbs that are going to go quickly, and so they want to make a quick buck, and they kind of jump into that market, and then it doesn't quite pan out. And I'm like, well, because the understanding and the passion isn't sitting behind the product. The product. Yeah.
I do get just super jealous when you have John doing odd jobs and building stuff in the weekend. And I think what I hear from a lot of women who have a partner who's in a trade or doing something is it's like this hobby. It outside of doing a development, it's something that you're doing as a partnership together. It's like a hobby, and it's like this shared interest. And there's a lot of reward that comes out of that outside of the other rewards that come with building.
Yeah, you're building together. So your conversations become around, this joint, where it's us. And we have this kind of thought that often in a relationship, people, they forget to talk to each other. It becomes them pitted against each other, and it's kind of like us against the world. It's us against whatever building project, or it's us kind of working
resolving
to meet
that problem.
Deadline. And so that unity is really really nice. And I guess in our situation, I hear this in a lot of situations, there's one person that's more interested in physically doing, and there's another person that's more interested in organising or vision. It's nice when you can both have the same vision, but sometimes it can take one person to bring the other person on in a ride, and often there's a risk there's a risk appetite difference in a relationship as well, and so one person might have, and so it's about finding a language that you can speak to your partner about to get them comfortable with how this process is going to work if you can't control any of the outcomes.
So actually that was a whole ream of complementary businesses and jobs and
and there
skills.
There are more. It's really just the skills of relationship skills. So if you're good at organising people, project managers are fantastic at this because they can see linear, and so often we find that it's a project manager from IT that might come into this space. Or if you're good at marketing, understand how to put up images and how to get traction and how to sell a project. If you're good at advertising, all these different things can feed in. It's about kind of working in how they feed in, but you have to have the underlying passion, would be my 2 cents worth.
Well, I'm just thinking too, just one more group of people came to mind, and that's actually commercial project managers or engineers or other industry professionals who have a niche area, but they want to be able to expand outside of that and pull a project from inception right through to completion, or see that whole thing. There's just actually, it's so many.
Anything. Actually, you could do anything.
Yeah.
It's very complimentary. Anyway, so we hope you've enjoyed. As Krabashki mentioned, this podcast was on a topic that we covered for the Developers Inner Circle. So the Developers Inner Circle is basically a group of women that are all developing for profit. If you want to talk more about that, get in touch with us, because it's really super fun.
So much fun.
Really interesting. It's a great way to kind of live, and developing is kind of a lonely game if you don't have a group of people around you. So this topic is, how do we create a business, set that up so it's systemized to support us developing for profit, and have the two levering or leveraging each other, building each other up.
We
hope you enjoy.